of an organization called Leadership Education for Asian Pacifics. I've been with this organization now starting my 21st year. Sometimes with younger participants, I will always kind of say it very quickly because they oftentimes don't think in terms of those kind of lens. Prior to that, I was working in the private sector, doing work with a tour operator doing tours to Asia and the South Pacific. So at a very young age, it allowed me to travel when my friends were still trying to figure out how do they just get out of California. I currently live in Huntington Beach, so I do love, it's as good as Sonoma County. I think.
You know, it's different.
It's another southern thing, but I have the beach. I love it here. Not too far away from it. So the organization and my responsibilities, I've been, I'm in the role that I'm in for now just over a year. But prior to that, I was being groomed for this current role as president and CEO. Probably in a leadership role in the organization, probably for at least 16 out of my time there in some capacity. But my particular organization, as well as my personal focus, is around culture, and in this case around Asian and Pacific Islanders, about being able to break stereotypes, but more importantly to be able to, as I like to say, inspire Asian and Pacific Islanders to aspire to leadership roles, regardless of what organization, what sector they're in. And so I have a rather interesting kind of opportunity. My time in the nonprofit sector is very, very deep. I also serve on a number of different other nonprofit boards. But in my role, I get to work across sectors, and in a sense, I have kind of this pseudo-consultant role. So I do a lot of work with corporations in terms of helping them to be able to better manage the talent that the Asian and Pacific Islander talent that they have, as well as being able to develop their leadership skills. But I also work with other nonprofits, public sector organizations, and higher education, a lot of higher education as well too. So it's been interesting, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Like you said, it's kind of refreshing to not have to go somewhere and feel like, okay, I got to prepare for this training and all this kind of stuff. This is kind of a different way to come on a trip. So
I'm over here. And I'm recovered from a cold, so I'm a little bit hoarse. I'm Jennifer Kelly, and I have like two roles or two hats, but I think that my hat here is representing the American Psychological Association. And I just, beginning January 1st of this year, I took the role of recording secretary of APA. and I just want to put that in perspective on the whole history of the organization. I'm the first African American female elected officer of the association, and the second elected African American elected, which was Kenneth Clark back in the early 70s. So you know, we've come a long way, and I think that we still have a long way to go. But I'm happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to serving the psychologists, not just in the United States, but internationally as well. Prior to that, I was a member at large on the board of directors of APA. So this is my 4th year on the board of APA, and I guess you can imagine the many challenges that we face in that position. So I'm happy to be here to see what it is that I can take back to APA. But I started my path of leadership through the State Psychological Association, and started as chair of the Ethnic Minority Affairs Committee, and moving on up to the president, secretary, and then president of the Georgia Psychological Association. And from that, got more involved in APA, and I served on the Board of Professional Affairs, where I served with Vicki Vanderbilt, and ended up being the chair of that board. I served on CAP for a couple of years, and moved on into my board position. I was the president of Division 31, which is the division for the state, provincial, territorial psychological association affairs. And one of the things that I'm most proud of is when one of my initiatives when I became president was to start a diversity leadership development workshop. Had no funding for it, and I just had this vision of this is what I wanted to do. What we had done, that was the diversity initiative within the Committee of State Leaders, the State Leadership Conference. And they would have the diversity delegates to come to the state leadership conference and say, oh, it feels so good to have people of color there, so what's next? And so I wanted to see, I was like, yeah, you're there, but it's like, okay, so what's next? And so there were two things that I saw as I started talking to them. It's like, well, why aren't you president of your state association? That helps you to move forward and really can, when you think about leadership from the bottom up, the grassroots level, top down, being the policymakers and having that to merge, they were out from the bottom up. So what's going on here? Well, they didn't have the confidence that they could do it, but why? It's not like it's rocket science work. And they didn't feel that they had the support from the officers, the executive officers within their state association. So one of the things that we wanted to do was to really try to work to change that. And so we raised money for the first 2 times, and it has been so successful that the Office of Ethnic Minority Affairs has fully funded, as long as we have the SEMRAC grant approved, it's fully funded, and so we can increase now the people involved in from 8 to 12, and so we've had so many people that have gone into elected offices within not only their SPTAs but with APA as well. So, and we're going to have our third one in March of this year. So we're looking forward to that. So that to me, that's what leadership is really all about, is picking people up and helping them to utilize the potential that they have. I'm originally from Gulfport, Mississippi, from the deep, deep south. You go 4 blocks further south, you'll be in the ocean. That's how, so you can imagine. So yeah, so some of the things that we so and now in my real day job, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm an independent practice with a physician, and I'm board certified clinical health psychologist, and we have a practice that looks at general clinical health kinds of things, and that's what I do in my day job. And I also serve on the board of this organization called Chris Kids, and it works with disadvantaged youth, and they are just one step away from the juvenile court system, and we really work with them and help to try to reunite them with their family as much as possible. And I'm just really delighted to be here, looking forward to what I can contribute to today.
Thank you, Jennifer. Celeste. You all, but
I'm Celeste Berry. I'm the founder and executive director of Out and Equal Workplace Advocates. And we work, it's a nonprofit organization based in San Francisco. We work primarily with Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies, with employees, with executives to create workplaces where people can come out and be equal at work, bring all of who they are to work every day, and not have to put their time and energy into hiding who they are, but can bring all of who they are to work. I've been doing it for 16 years, and we've had some generational conversations on my team, and I just realized, my assistant was 5 years old when I started Out and Equal. Puts things in perspective a little bit, but I started the organization. I had taught school for a number of years in Dallas, Texas, and then was really wanting to follow my passion at the time, this is 20 years ago, to be a Presbyterian minister. So I went to seminary, San Francisco Theological Seminary. At the very same time, I was coming out as a lesbian and realized I wasn't able to get ordained, which was really a very difficult experience for me. And so I spent a lot of time kind of just being pissed off about that, and then thought, well, I'll dust myself off and move on.org, as I like to say, and started Out and Equal. And now we have about 20 people on staff, and we work with, as I said, with companies. We have our largest event every year is about 2,500 people that come to the Out and Equal Workplace Summit from about 30 to 35 countries around the world. So people have really woken up to the fact that to have LGBT people as employees, as clients, as customers is really a step in the right direction. And so things are changing, and very happy to be here today, part of the conversation.
This way, so you go this way. I'm Fred Bijan. Good morning. I'm very happy to be here. I was asked to be here, I'm assuming because of my association with ASPPV. So my car says ABPP, which is not right. So it's an acronym for the Association of State and Provincial Psychology Boards. So that's the organization, it's a binational organization, Canada and United States, that basically handles regulation in psychology. So I came out of, I'm in New York, I live in New York, born and bred, Puerto Rican. My parents came to New York independently, found each other, fell in love, and then they had us.
Straightforward.
So
Short history.
I am, for me, what's been interesting about this process, and I teach a lot about cross-cultural stuff and my experiences have been how to kind of meld and mix identities. So I grew up speaking Spanish and I went to school in English, and I was bright, so I was put in a school that was scholarship only, so my parents loved it, and it was Catholic, and there was so many things that were taught there that were contrary to what they taught me, but they didn't quite get that. So it's the struggle between being the good Catholic Puerto Rican boy who's subservient, kind of listens and respects, but then is getting different rules and different demands from the authorities. And that's kind of been my experience, because as I went through my training, I was lucky enough to go to a program that had a cross-cultural emphasis, so that was great. But then we had this conflict between clinical and counseling psychology, which is kind of perspectives. And then I got trained as an analyst, which has become pretty problematic for me because I'm on the East Coast, we have lots of analysts on the East Coast. And that created this issue, can you be an analyst with these kind of Eurocentric ideas and still be a cross-cultural guy, which I am. So it's always been about how do I kind of take these diverse ideas, how can I be macho and still be kind of supportive of women, and supportive of sexual orientation issues, and supportive of all these diverse issues. And that's kind of what I think that brings to the leadership, is how do I kind of sort these things out when all these different constituencies have different opinions that they are really strongly convicted in. They really believe this stuff. How do you make it work, and how can people get a good enough solution? And that's ultimately what I'm finding now, certainly because I'm the chair of the, it's a very long title. It's a joint task force between APA, ASPPB, and the insurance trust. And the different constituencies, we're doing telepsych. And it's this idea of, everybody wants to protect their people. Everybody has this view of what telepsychology looks like and what should and shouldn't be done. And everybody's really invested in protecting their constituencies, but you have to get some kind of resolution. And I'm sure this is a very common experience. How do you get people to kind of concede something to make it work? So that's why I'm here, and that's what I hope to kind of work on. And thank you.
You need to advise Obama.
My name is Ken Tepio, and I'm Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs at Fort Lewis College, which is a small liberal arts college in southwestern Colorado. I'm a member of the Blackfeet tribe. I was born and reared on the Blackfeet Reservation. Prior to coming to Fort Lewis College, which is primarily a Native American serving institution, by the way, even though it's a public liberal arts college. We graduate for Native Americans with 4-year degrees than any 4-year institution in the country. Wow.
Yay.
Let's say I was born and reared on the Blackfeet Reservation. Prior to coming to Fort Lewis College, I was at Harvard University, where I was director of the Native American program. I left there primarily, really, when I think about it, because I was there during 9/11, and I was waiting for my daughter to sort of finish high school in Boulder, Colorado, and then we were going to move the family out to Boston, and I started reflecting about the things that were most important to me. And do I need to be at one of the finest institutions in the world with a good salary, or do I want to be with my family? So I moved back with my family, and now we're in southern Colorado, where I enjoy the life that I grew up with, which is a lot of